Hello, everyone, and welcome to Wowhead Weekly number 283. We had some pretty big news that happened just a day ago. We have the Hazzikostas interview, which we need to definitely cover, and also an introduction or announcement of something called the WoW Community Council, which sounds really interesting. We'll get into more details of that during the show. We also have some news on Bobby Kotick, and 915 is now live if you're in the US. For us in EU, we gotta wait for another day. Before we jump into any details of anything, though, let me quickly introduce myself. I'm Annie, or also known as Annie Fuchsia, and I am a full time streamer on Twitch. That's what I do. And yeah, and sometimes we do these shows together, of course, as well. And my co host is the lovely Wowhead site director, Perculia.
I'm Perk. Really nice to always do these shows and be in front of the camera since a lot of my work is behind the scenes. Thanks for all your support leading up into 915, seeing a lot of people using our guides for the upcoming patch, so that's always really nice feeling. And yeah, we actually have a lot of not 915 news between the storm mount, the earnings call, announcements leading up to it, the community council, the Ian interview, and Season of Mastery release date. So it seems that WoW is having a lot more stuff to talk about after the lull we had earlier a few months ago. So
Yeah,
yeah, why
that's
don't we
actually a
discuss
really good point.
915 quick, and then we can
Mm-hmm.
discuss some of Ian's stuff, which kind of ties into the, stuff picking up and less of a lull.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, indeed.
So
With
yeah.
915, like you said, I'm sure a lot of people are double checking, so what is actually happening? We haven't had a patch
Mm.
update for some time now, and especially after all that has happened around Blizzard. I think a lot of people are curious about what has changed, what's new, what are the important things to keep in mind. I mean, a point 0.5 patch in nowadays expansions does mean that there's no major content, but there are still quite a few updates in the game itself. And yeah, let's talk about a few of these things.
So the biggest one, so first off, there's no like new zone or new raid, but
Yeah.
there's a lot of quality improvements.
Mm-hmm.
And while they may not look like a ton of new content to play, I think they make content easier to play
Exactly.
for alts.
Mm-hmm.
And it also marks a change that Blizzard is trying a new approach to things, which is really important for when they release another major patch. So, for example, a big thing is that the Covenant system got an overhaul in patch 915, where if you are max renown, you can freely swap covenants. And then, along with that, um, the Covenant cosmetic unlock system can be used by players that are not part of that specific covenant. So
Mm-hmm.
that
And
makes it
even on
more
alts,
enjoyable.
right?
Yeah, more
So if
enjoyable
I
to use rewards.
So if I have a Nightfade cloth item unlocked on my main character, I could use it on my alt clothy, which might be of, I don't know, Venthyr Covenant instead, and that works basically. The restriction is lifted as long as you have earned it on one character. It's then available on all of them. So definitely some quality of life, alt friendliness going on there, because it does mean that if you were like me, wanting to have multiple characters across the different covenants, that does mean that you'll have access to all of the different things across the board now, as long as it's the same armor type.
Yeah. Also, there is an instant renown catch up to renown 40 for alts, and Covenant Soulbind skip for alts as well.
Mm-hmm.
So if people didn't want to deal with other covenants, now you can. And people were so adamant. Blizzard was so adamant at the start of Shadowlands that covenants would be a certain way. Like, remember there was that magazine where like literally it was like choice matters. They've really been
Yeah.
emphasizing this, so to change it I think really shows that they are trying to change their philosophy, because you know they've like covenant choice was part of their core branding for the expansion, and now they've
Yes.
willing to change stuff.
Mm-hmm. However, I do want to point out that
Mhm.
if in the interview, which we will get into very soon, Ian actually still defends the idea of having covenants so rigid,
Mhm.
and I it makes me sad to hear that because I feel like it seems like at Blizzard they felt that people who are min maxing will be kind of annoyed of the whole covenant rigidness,
Mhm.
but that people who are in the RPG who are interested in more like the RPG aspects would appreciate having those kind of meaningful choices in terms of story path. And I feel like if it is that case, then maybe these covenants definitely should not have any power behind them. And also, I'm curious, and what do you think about it, Perk? Do you think that
Mhm.
there's a large amount of people who appreciated the RPG aspect of having a meaningful choice?
No, I mean, I think that it's like Blizzard was trying to appeal to different types of players, and like you can't please everyone, so like no one ended up pleased. Um, like I
Mm-hmm.
do think that playing through the story was cool, but I think that for most people, with the way it was set up, they either just wanted to like min max and didn't care about the RP, um, or like then it was this jarring thing of, well, I really like the transmog and stuff for this one covenant, but for PvE content I feel like I need to be a different covenant.
Mm-hmm.
And like, if you
Mm-hmm.
wanted to do something for the aesthetics you couldn't because of the choice. So maybe if they'd only made covenants tied to like purely cosmetics, um and like maybe your abilities would take on like a blue or green tint, but they were the same
Mm-hmm.
ability. I think that would have been a better mix of stuff. But yeah, I think
Yeah.
at this point, like, so many people do WoW for like, high end like leaderboards, rankings, high performance. Some people want to read all the quest text, but WoW has a group of people that don't really care about the quest text. It's just really hard to make very different groups of players happy. And I think what we had at the
Mm-hmm.
start was not really making either group feel rewarded by it.
Yeah, and I also find it like I'm really curious how big the population is that is interested in the story enough to be
Hmm.
having that immersive feeling of being stuck with one covenant, because I feel like for a lot of lore enthusiasts as well, it's probably interesting to be able to, play through one and then swap over and play through another one to find out what happened, instead of needing to get an alt up to be able to do that. So I feel like with Ian still somewhat, defending that design choice, um, it kind of bothers me because then it
Mm.
feels like it'll happen again, right? Because with the conduit system, again, we will. Maybe I should have commented these things later, but and with the conduit system,
Okay.
he does say that they should have taken the feedback and changed it earlier. They were wrong about that. But with the covenant, the powers being stuck behind an RPG decision, just felt really wrong. And it seems like they're happy with having done it in that way, because they wanted it to be meaningful for RPG elements. And yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know. I've been thinking about this a lot, and I'm just worried that if they still think that it's a good idea, that means that we might get more of these kind of things later, you know?
Yeah, I mean, well, it's sort of like everything is all intertwined, like with all these topics. I feel
Yeah, it
that
is.
I have your same concern. Maybe it's a little bit of copium, but hopefully, like, I'm thinking maybe the WoW community, council will have feedback, making it seem that, even casual or story players would have liked covenants to be different. So maybe if there's stronger feedback systems, or
Mm-hmm.
and transparency,
Mm-hmm.
stuff like this can be prevented. But I mean, like, there were so many content creators already that seemed worried about covenants leading up to it. So you could say, how much more vocal do people need to be to convey this to Blizzard? But I definitely see your concerns. Like, you don't want 10-0 to be the same thing, because that will, lose a lot of faith with players. And we've discussed in the past, like, everyone says, oh, the systems at the start were messy, and then by the end of the expansion, they all felt really good, and then Blizzard like goes back to this drawn out system, like,
Yeah.
corruptions, and the vendor, or like everyone likes Legion for the artifacts, but they remember when they were all like OP in 7.3 and not, running Maw of Souls like 50 times at, Legion launch. Um, so you don't want this to be another trend of, oh yeah, like we made everything easy by the end of the expansion, but then like 10.0 is going to be a return to the, world of systems craft and
Yeah.
things being
Exactly.
like grindy and drawn out.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
But yeah,
but
kind of
yeah,
my bad there for jumping
no, no,
topics there and
no,
confusing
I think it
people.
was like, it was all right. No, I mean, like it's all related because you could be like, wow, these covenant changes are great, but then it's like, oh, the game director as he's talking about them,
He's
he
still
sort of
happy
had
with
a
how
good
they did it.
justification. Yeah, so I think it's
Yeah.
important that if people are evaluating, should they come back from 915? It's like, yeah, it's better, but you should still be aware that
Yeah.
there's still some like growing pains here.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, just to sort of run through some of the
Yeah.
other quality of life things quickly.
Going back to
Um,
915 highlights
yeah.
now. Mm-hmm.
Sort of another kind of 180 Blizzard did with a very different topic is character customizations.
Oh yeah.
We have allied races all getting options. This was after Blizzard said at BlizzConline that they were done with customization options, and maybe they were holding these for 10.0, a later point, or maybe these were like done or scrapped or part of like a one-off project, but
I think, like you said, I think it
yeah,
was planned for 10.0 because they literally told
yeah,
us that, right? They said
hmm
we're not planning any more customizations for Shadowlands. It wasn't even next
hmm
patch. They said for
right,
Shadowlands, we're not getting more customizations. But yeah, then they did a 180 because things
yeah,
happened and then they had to go back and make the community happy again. So they went back and granted a lot of these wishes that people had, and the
yeah,
character customization was one of them.
yeah. I think that all the changes are really good. Definitely a
Mm-hmm.
step in the right direction. Especially the Nightborn that were kind of um abandoned, very overlooked with so few
Mm-hmm.
options. And hopefully Blizzard will learn a lesson from this that while maybe character customization can't be tied to like MAU or like a hard metric, people respond well to it. And when you say you're not doing customization, people then point out how other games are more welcoming or they feel like they can create themselves more faithfully in it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just something that they need to keep up with. And I think the timing of them announcing that they were done, followed immediately by the lawsuit, led to a lot of think pieces where people were like, Blizzard's always lagged behind, with diversity other games, and now they're stopping these again. So it sort of snowballed into it made Blizzard, look bad. It wasn't just like, oh yeah, we're not doing this feature. It's like, oh, this is also tied to maybe like PR, issues at the company. So,
Yep. Mm-hmm.
uh, hopefully they'll learn that they should keep adding more options. Like there's more that they could do. Like I think
Yeah, with
humans at
customization, it's never too much.
yeah. I mean, especially as other games keep on getting like more and more into customization.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's important that Blizzard keep up. Like that's the very first thing new players see.
Yeah,
Um,
you create
they
a
did that
character.
whole blog recently on how they revamped the character creation UI, and it was very popular.
Oh yeah.
And like people care about that sort of thing, and Blizzard
Mm-hmm.
especially needs to work hard now, getting more people interested in the game. And
Yep.
if your first impression is, oh, I picked this Nightborn and it's like an elf, but it has a lot less than Night Elf, you're gonna maybe not be excited. Or if you play a human and you're like, oh, I love all these faces, but now I'm going to change the skin tone and like I don't have as many facial expressions, that that makes you not feel great either. So I think that it's definitely important to make the first impressions count with these customization options.
Definitely. Definitely. Some other high points were removal of things that people had complained
Mhm.
about for a long time.
Yeah.
We mentioned Conduit Energy, and while they did have that quick fix of editing or updating the cooldown to make it not so annoying
Mhm.
before the patch hit. Now with 915, it's completely just removed. So Conduit Energy is not there anymore. And that is, something that people have wanted for a long time.
Yeah.
It's not exactly something to be excited about because it shouldn't have been there in the first place, but it's
Mhm.
definitely a relief for a lot of people whom it concerned. I mean, a lot of casual players probably never even ran into this issue. So it was just a weird limitation to have
Yeah.
overall. And also
Some
a
other
recap.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That was another thing that
another very
it's not
unpopular
totally removed.
thing.
Yeah. It was sort of one of those things where it's like, well, who was pulling 14 mobs? Not, everyone, but it's like it just sort of gained in stature, and then it was like, yeah, why did Blizzard, do this in the first place?
Mm-hmm.
Um
And yeah, like you
they
said,
did
it's not
some
completely removed, but it's been
Yeah.
adjusted. So before it used to
Mm.
not do damage above, depending on what ability you're looking at. For some, it was max 5 mobs. For some, it was max 8 mobs. And now the restriction of how many mobs is gone, but the damage done is just reduced above that. So that especially helps when you go and do old content. Sometimes people would be quite frustrated wanting to
Mm.
just do a massive pull and kill everything at once because you're strong, right? You're one-shotting everything. But with the awkward AoE limit, it meant that you still have to sit there and, click multiple globals to
Mm.
actually kill everything because it doesn't hit everything. But yeah, so now there's no hard cap. Now it's just a sort of
Yeah.
soft cap reducing damage above a certain amount.
Speaking of things being easier, Blizzard has made some changes to old content, which I
Yeah.
think is part of. We keep saying, Blizzard has all this content that they just sort of, you toss aside and you never need to do, and it seems that they're trying to slowly change this. Some things include island expeditions. You can now solo queue for them. So if you like collecting things, islands have a ton of unique things like transmog and
There's like
mounts.
8 mounts
Um,
in there. Oh god.
yeah,
It was
so
the
many
pain of getting
transmog
all of them.
recolors. Yeah. And then they made Legion raid bosses easier to solo.
Yeah.
Again, really good for transmog or mount runs.
Mm-hmm.
And then they also changed Battle for Azeroth legacy loot rules, so um, you can get more items now. And that's good if you need BFA transmog for anything. Which
Mm-hmm.
you know, sad they removed tier sets, but all things considered, with BFA, like every raid had a very different look. So if you want like an old god or want Samdi or Naga appearance, there are a lot of different distinct styles from those raids.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. Did you mention your
Um,
Anima Transfer?
I did not. In patch 915, players who reach renown 80 can purchase this anima item and then use that to transfer anima to alts, and the item costs 1,000, and then you get 1,000. I did want to
Wait,
talk
it's
about level.
100%?
Yeah,
Oh, I didn't know that. That's nice.
yeah,
Okay, cool. Good to know.
yeah. Um, and yeah, some other things I just wanted to highlight quick were alt leveling improvements.
Mm-hmm.
These felt a little bit hit and miss. There were some very popular things, no drawbacks, like Maw intro skip. A lot of people have wanted that.
Mm-hmm.
Skip the introduction.
Mm-hmm.
Something more contentious was leveling in Torghast. Like, it's great they added the option, but people feel it's not it could be better with rewards and the rate of things. Um,
Like more
you know,
experience?
yeah, like people are just saying that, like, Threads of Fate kind of feels like it was a nice addition, but like it was a little rough around the edges, and it's just like right now with Torghast, it's not like worth it as much to do it. Um, I think the subreddit was talking about it for a while, and like a week or so ago, we did a deep dive, like explaining why
Mm.
like it wasn't. I mean, it's great it was added, it's a good step, but it could be refined a little more.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah. Um, but yeah, so the big patch feature is actually not coming now. It's coming um in what's it
Time
called?
walking.
Yeah.
Was it in December?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So time walking is coming in December. It's
Mm-hmm.
going to be December 7th for 2 weeks until the 21st.
Okay,
Um
so in
and
about 5 weeks from now,
mhm.
then, which is really exciting because that means that the return of the Mage Tower, which is coming with some new rewards as well, including the tome mount, the book mount. If you complete all 7 of the different instances of the Mage Tower with the specs of your choice, because every instance has different spec options or different class options, you can complete it and then get the mount. Another unique reward is the fell colored Guardian Druid
Cool.
skin, which is in the form of the old unique one from Legion. So that's actually also really cool.
Yeah. So this also marks a step again, like we were just talking about with the making the old content more accessible. You know, Mage Tower was very popular in Legion, and then it was removed, you know, made obsolete, and this is Blizzard taking steps to, you know, rebuild things, figuring out how to take old content that was tuned around like artifacts and legendaries, tweaking them, and it's like, how do you make them viable for Shadowlands and beyond? So, as part of this, you're not going to be able to use your Covenant or any expansion specific
Specific.
abilities
Mm-hmm.
in there. Um, and I think that this is a good step, and maybe they can use this philosophy to make other old content, you know, bring it back for other time walking.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I do think that every 18 weeks for time walking to be up is not great. Like there should always be the
Yeah.
time walking active. So yeah, it's yeah. That's sort of my one big issue with this, but I definitely think that the whole approach is a step in the right direction.
Yeah, definitely.
So,
What else did we have here? Mm-mm-mm-mm. Also, legendary item recycling. So you're going to be able to break your legendaries, get the is that how it works? It's the you will get the mats back, and then you can craft it again. The legendary items.
yeah, I think that's how it works. Let me just
Mm-hmm.
pull it up. I put some big news in notes towards the top if you want to take a look as I'm pulling this up on the legendaries. Um, but yeah, you get a full refund on all
Mm.
soul ash and soul cinders spent to originally create the legendary. But this does not refund the base legendary piece, but you do get your soul ash and cinders back.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, so like a lot of quality of life stuff, it doesn't add up to like a new zone, or maybe it's smaller than other point 0.5 patches, as in there's no like Brawlers Guild or, you know, raid coming like Legion had in point 0.5 patches, but I think that these are really important for the health of the game. And normally we don't get so many quality of life improvements at once, and certainly not in the 1.5 patch. So I think that this
Mm-hmm.
is all really like this is all a step in the right direction. Of course, there is, you know, is this too little, too late? Because we know that development has been affected by COVID, and also maybe just, you know, not being smart in developing things that can't be reused,
Yep.
like and then having
Yep.
to fix it. But hopefully, I mean, they keep talking about hiring lots of people. Hopefully, you know, there's a team that's been working on these changes, as you know, while another part of the team is working on 9.2 and
Mm-hmm.
beyond.
Mm-hmm.
But
I mean, yeah.
hopefully, yeah, if like they're
Sorry.
using this philosophy moving forward, hopefully,
Then it's
if we have
okay.
more stuff
Yeah.
like this, as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to like, you know, Covenant is great, choice is meaningful.
Yeah.
If it's more in the style of 915, that's more optimistic for 9-2.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think these changes are good, and like you said, as long as it's something that continues in the future, of listening and faster updates, then it's a good thing. That's a good thing overall.
Yeah.
And so this big news just dropped now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
um yeah. So, yeah, Blizzard just released a letter from Jen O'Neill, who was the appointed the co-lead of Blizzard after JL and Brack left. And she has decided to step down from her position at
Mm-hmm.
Blizzard. She
Yeah.
the yeah, the direct quote is, "I want you to hear from me personally that I have made the decision to step away from co-leading Blizzard Entertainment and will transition to a new position before departing ABK at the end of the year. Effective immediately, Mike Ybarra will lead Blizzard. Um, I am doing this not because I am without hope for Blizzard, quite the opposite. I'm inspired by the passion of everyone here, working towards meaningful, lasting change with their whole hearts. This energy has inspired me to step out and explore how I can do more to have games and diversity intersect and hopefully make a broader industry impact that will benefit Blizzard and other studios as well." So to me, that sounds
Wow.
like she
Hmm.
wants to start up like a consulting firm, or something that maybe she can use to help multiple studios like improve diversity with. um or like maybe she just wanted to focus on that and not you know like overseeing other parts of the Blizzard job. But yeah, this is
This was
definitely.
fast. This looks
Yeah.
bad. This looks
Yeah.
really bad. I mean,
Yeah.
because, like, sure, you may be able to do more in other places to help thing, etc.,
Hmm.
etc., but you're like right in the middle of trying to
Yeah.
fix, the
Hmm.
prime place of problem right now, and and she leaves.
Yeah. It's also, I mean, also when they announced the co-leads, like JL and Brack leaving was pretty shocking. But we thought that the co-leads were like a good balance with their skill sets. Like,
Yeah,
Jen worked for many parts of Activision Blizzard, including Vicarious Visions.
yeah, she wasn't new
Um,
to Blizzard.
yeah, and even people were like, "Oh, um, it's nice to actually, see a woman in a leadership position." And then it did seem a bit weird with the dynamic, how like, Mike would always be like tweeting about like playing WoW scores, and people didn't hear as much from Jen. Like I
Hmm.
always thought like that, the communication balance was different, but maybe now if she was planning on leaving, it makes sense why she wasn't, as forward facing. But yeah, this
Do you
is
think she may
really
have?
bad timing.
Yeah, I mean, this looks terrible for Blizzard. But
Yeah.
do you think she may have experienced a lot of backlash? Do you think she felt like this is looking bad for her, or do you think she was simply offered some, more somewhere else, or what do you think could have happened?
There's this line where she says, "While I am not totally sure what form that will take, about the industry impact, I'm excited to embark on a new journey to find out." So that sort of implies that I don't think it's a new offer. Maybe she's trying to build something on her own. Um,
Hmm.
because if you're saying like you're not sure what form that will take, that sounds pretty up in the air. But yeah, maybe she just maybe she realized that she'd rather do something else, and that she her past work, she prefers doing stuff like that or focusing on diversity, and this role sounded prestigious, but maybe it just wasn't for her. Like maybe she preferred to do something else with her skill set, or
Also,
maybe it was. Yeah, go ahead.
she was with Blizzard before as well. I mean, to some extent,
Yeah. Mhm.
indirectly.
Yeah.
So maybe this wasn't. Maybe she didn't really want to be in this position in the first place. Maybe she was kind
Yeah,
of maybe somewhat pressured, not pressured, but like took
like
on the
having to be
role
like the
without thinking
token.
of it.
Yeah.
Maybe she
Um,
accepted before realizing what it was, and then I mean, not what it was, but before realizing
right.
what it would mean for her,
Mm.
that she realized this isn't what she wants to do. Maybe I don't
Yeah,
know.
like if she wanted to, like if she's talking about that she wants to to do more with diversity and inclusivity, and it, she thought that she could make an impact, but instead her day is spent with other things, like mundane things or just, businessy things, and she'd rather focus on this one branch of the company, or making an impact in the industry. She could be like, maybe I thought this job would let me do X, but actually it's not letting me pursue that at all. Um, like she said, this notice also said ABK's leadership is graciously offering their support for my decision and has worked with me on a plan to invest in the future of other women in the gaming industry by agreeing to make a $1 million grant to Women in Games International. This money will be used to fund skill building and mentorship programs.
what does this mean?
Oh,
Does this mean that Blizzard is, or like, where does this money come from?
Um, I guess it comes from Blizzard's profits. But yeah, this is something that Blizzard is like donating on
So
Jen's
Blizzard is donating.
behalf. Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah. And of course in this letter she keeps trying to reiterate that, um, like Mike has been supportive through the decision-making process. You know, she's they're trying to make Blizzard safer and more inclusive, that she believes strongly in it, but yeah, I mean the timing of this is not
It's
good,
real
and kind of
bad.
explain why Bobby Kotick was like, yeah, I'm don't pay me anything, look at how virtuous I am a few days ago.
Yeah.
um
I mean,
yeah.
do you think it's possible that they, I mean, it's no surprise everything happened so fast that it was probably a rush decision to put her there. I don't know, like, it takes time to
Yeah.
plan new journeys, you know?
Yeah.
And it's only been like 3 months, and the journey has already been set in place.
Yeah,
So
I
it kind of
mean,
tells me that she probably didn't want to be there in the first place, in that role, that
yeah.
is.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, if people are thinking about wanting to, um, take, step out on their own, switch gears, maybe instead of developing games, focus more on diversity, that doesn't happen overnight. They have to be thinking
yeah,
about this for a while.
yeah.
So maybe she thought that she wanted to change and she could um, get that change by being in this role at Blizzard. And then it turns out that wasn't the case. So she's like, okay, I'm going to do something else. But yeah, I mean, I imagine, like, it just would be a lot mentally, like, even when they were both hired, like, there were so many people complaining in both directions, like, "Oh, Quick is saving the game, what's Jen doing?" Like, "Quick has good WoW parses," or then you'd have people like, "Oh, why isn't Jen leading Blizzard by herself? Why did they need the man propping her up?" And there's just, like, so much player toxicity and judgmental stuff that I imagine it's really difficult to block that out as well, even if you're a professional. So
Hmm.
maybe it's easier to improve things if you take a step back from, you know, all the issues going on, and make your own thing instead of trying to be in this position where there's like so much scrutiny and you can't win. But yeah, the timing is just like, it's sort of like, if you knew that you
Yeah.
weren't going to be, like, wanting to stay here, like,
It's
why
like they must
take
have
this?
known it was a temporary role, right? And also,
Yeah.
here, Mike has been unbelievably supportive throughout my decision making process around this move.
Mhm.
Then you
Yeah.
know that there's been thinking, there's been a process, there's been some
Yeah.
time planning this, and yeah, this is actually really bad for Blizzard. I think, at least from like a PR community aspect,
Yeah.
because
Like,
everyone is gonna think this is because she doesn't believe in it. No matter what she says, this is her
mm,
giving up. So she wants to quickly go away before, having to deal with more things.
Yeah, I
But
mean, if they
yeah.
knew that she wasn't going to be there, I feel like if they said something to the effect of, you know, Mike is the new leadership and Jen O'Neill is going to be like I don't know, like the transition manager or like overseer, diversity improvements. I feel
Hmm.
like if people had known that it was likely going to
Yeah.
be a temporary position for her and given her a different name, I think that would have been good. But yeah, I mean, like it hasn't even been since like what 3
Yeah.
months. It's like
Yeah, I
nothing.
know.
Like,
I mean, maybe it was
like
meant to be announced that way, but then the
yeah,
whoever made the official announcement then worded it
yeah.
wrong, and then they felt too awkward to like correct it. I don't know.
Yeah. I
Because
mean,
what's
this is
next? Like
also
Mike is leaving next week, you know?
yeah, it's
Like,
also it's interesting because we didn't put this in the notes, but last week they announced that Vicarious Visions, which I believe is the division she did stuff with,
mm-hmm.
was being renamed to like um Blizzard Blizzard something, like maybe Blizzard Albany. I don't think that
Oh,
would be like
it's
a straw on the
renamed.
camel's back. Yeah,
Okay.
Vicarious Visions got merged in, and now they're gonna rename to reflect how they fully support Blizzard games. So,
Okay.
who knows if there is some sort of like politics going on with
Yeah.
like Girl Studio or, you know, maybe she wanted them to be separate. But yeah, this just sounds like she wanted to change around the time that she got this position, and maybe the Blizzard leadership wasn't she realized it wasn't the best way to uh you know uh, implement the change she wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe the Blizzard position had too much baggage around it.
Because you can imagine also, they all know that this announcement looks bad, right? So you can imagine
Mhm.
that maybe this announcement itself has even been delayed by a month. Like, if you think about it,
Yeah.
like, even the announcement itself is probably like, yeah, can we just wait a little bit? Maybe we'll pay a little bit extra. Just wait, just stay with us for
Mm.
a little longer before you leave. And with all that in mind, it's, yeah, I don't know. We can only speculate, really. We don't know what happened. But it definitely feels like she wasn't really supposed to be a leader. And maybe they just put her there to make it seem like, a guy and girl leading. Kind of like it looks good, without
Mm.
thinking about the fact that, hey, maybe she doesn't actually want this role. And maybe she's leaving soon. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean yeah, it's just I remember when she was hired, we had this like we were looking up her old interviews and we thought that like she had like a really good work ethic and that we liked what her management style brought to games. Like we were
Mm-hmm.
talking about, I think it was like the skateboarding game she worked on, how she kept the old heroes but then also added like new diverse heroes, so like, not taking stuff away but just adding content to make people feel welcome, and how we like that approach. Um
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I mean, this sounds like she loved developing games. Was thinking about trying to improve games and diversity. Maybe thought this position like would have been a good vehicle for that, and then it, wasn't a good fit. So she figures she can make more of an impact um, doing something else, and this just wasn't the right role for her.
Mm-hmm.
She came up through Activision and Vicarious Visions. She wasn't directly part of Blizzard entertainment culture, and just maybe it just wasn't um, a good fit at this point. The unique problems plaguing Blizzard's culture,
Yeah.
and if it's not a good fit, then it's hard to be creative or as motivated as you can be. So it you don't want to speculate, but just the timing of this is so so bizarre. It's
Yeah.
funny, like, I
It
woke
really
up this morning
is.
and I was like, I'm thinking of the past earnings call, and I'm like, wow, like so many people were leaving, that's really died down since the last earnings call. And it's like, nope, we got another
Yeah.
co-lead. And then
Yeah.
I'm just looking at work chat, uh, the stocks were sort of hovering neutral, like going up a little bit, down a little bit, nothing too major. And then it's like, Jen O'Neill is leaving. Okay, let's just drop, 8% stock. Like,
Wait, did it
like
really drop 80%?
yeah, apparently, yeah, it's down like
Do stocks move
9.
that fast? Because this was just like 15 minutes ago.
Yeah, apparently, at
Oh,
4
wow.
p.m. EDT, it was $77, and now it's $70 at after hours 4:54 Eastern time. So, um, yeah. So it's just like, yeah, the stock
Wow.
market's not going to be trying to understand her motive. They're just going to be like, co-lead left. Oh
Yeah, of
shit.
course. Of
Panic,
course.
money
Yeah.
down.
Mm-hmm.
But
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
and I mean, I think that's also a lot of pressure on Quick now,
It is a
because
lot of pressure on him.
I'm sure there'll be speculation like, oh, like was she pushed out, or like did they not get along? So like now he is to be super open, and he was getting under fire for
He was
doing
already
like
under fire. Yeah.
yeah boosts on stream, but yeah, I
Oh.
definitely think that whoever is in this leadership position needs to do like I don't know fireside chats or
Yeah.
frequent communication if J. Allen Brack was removed, and now Jen O'Neill's like, yeah, I'm passionate about diversity, but I'm not gonna do it at Blizzard, and it's just
Yeah.
yeah,
Because that's the thing, too. I'm passionate about diversity, so I want to go out and do something about it. By
yeah,
leaving the top position as the only
mm,
female in this position.
yeah,
It's really sad. I mean, she must have some really important reasons to do that. Because that alone, just her being in that position alone, is pretty powerful. You can argue that that's more
mm.
powerful than what a lot of other people can do. And yeah,
Yeah. I
it's
mean, it could
let's
just
just
be
say
a
I would
thing
sell
where
my
like
stocks now too.
yeah, I mean, it could just be a thing where like maybe like Blizzard has all this baggage, and it's like really difficult to move change along because there's like so many departments and things that need to get approval with, and maybe it's like if you're on your own or with like a small studio or consulting group, it's
Mhm.
easier to be agile, like you can actually push changes through.
Did this
um
happen mid earnings call?
uh I think so, yeah, the earnings, yeah,
Why wouldn't they
yeah,
wait until after?
well, they were discussing in the earnings call because the co-leads have to say stuff.
Oh, and
So
she announced this during the
yeah,
earnings call.
the letter on Blizzard's website I think went up at like 1:44 p.m., so like 25 minutes ago.
Okay.
Oh, Overwatch 2 and Diablo 4 are apparently
Cancelled?
delayed.
Oh. Like
No,
at
not
this point,
canceled.
I'm expecting all the bad things. Oh no.
Yeah.
Delayed. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny to
Um
call them delayed when we don't even have a date.
yeah. No, apparently yeah, apparently yeah, apparently the earnings call is that while we are still planning to deliver a substantial amount of content from Blizzard next year, we are now planning for a later launch for Overwatch 2 and Diablo 4 than originally envisioned. These are two of the most eagerly anticipated titles in the industry. I'll put this in the notes because I'm reading from a slide.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so it's These are two of the most eagerly anticipated titles in the industry, and our teams have made great strides towards completion in recent quarters, but we believe giving the teams some extra time to complete production and continue growing their creative resources to support the titles after launch will ensure that these releases delight and engage their communities for many years into the future. These decisions will push out the financial uplift than we had expected to see next year. This is the right course of action for our people, our players, and the long term success of these franchises. But yeah, so wow, I like how we start off the show with like, yeah, 915 is a step in the good direction, and then it's like, oh,
Yeah, I mean, because like
COVID left.
things were
Yeah.
starting to feel a little bit like,
Yeah.
obviously still more of a PR thing, right? It's more talking
Yeah.
and you wait for the action. But the Ian interview overall, uh, you know, uh, gave some things that were pretty good to look forward to, even if a lot of it was mostly PR. And then we have the community council thing, which we're still going to talk about as well,
Mhm.
which in theory is good at least. And then we would see how it is in practice, as time can only tell.
Yeah.
Uh, and then like all these things of like, yeah, time can tell, time will tell us. Let's see how it turns out. And then this happens.
Yeah. It's yeah. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, maybe with who knows if maybe she had a different idea with delays, like maybe she pushed for them but realized that it like had sticky, it's sticky if you push for delays to do things well. Maybe she realized Blizzard had more baggage, so it couldn't be as precise, high quality as the work she oversaw on Vicarious
Mm-hmm.
Visions and other games. Like just maybe it wasn't a good fit. And certainly with all these other things that we hear from Blizzard, it's like there were definitely a lot of roadblocks for
Yeah.
anyone to get their vision across.
Mm-hmm.
um,
I just saw a tweet from Kitsuki.
yeah.
Just when you think things are going, and it's like the stocks going up, it immediately stocks go down. Oh
Yeah.
no.
Um,
Wow. No, this is
yeah.
actually really sad.
Yeah.
A lot of it is quite like shocking, but it's also really sad. I think Jen O'Neill was, without knowing anything, she was in a way a beacon of hope for a lot of people, having her
Mm,
up there, and things feeling promising, with her in leadership, with Ibarra as well. And
yeah.
now suddenly it feels like I'm kind of expecting like more bad news.
Yeah, I mean, I hope she wasn't like pushed out or like, tried to go to bat for like women or delays and got like saw that, you know, corporate didn't like her for whatever reason and felt she had to leave to like avoid, you know, professional backlash. Like her
Mm-hmm.
letter, even though, the timing is weird, like it does seem like she is very committed to diversity and improving things for women. It seems like maybe this grant was something she'd been working on for a while. Um, and if she's talking about how she wants to, uh, make a broader industry impact, it's like, was Blizzard not giving her a lot of control? Like,
Yeah.
was she promised a lot of things and then it didn't work out? So she's like, yeah, I have to leave this so I can actually get stuff done. Um,
Yeah.
because the whole, Blizzard being like, "Oh, here's this, grant in your honor." It sounds like maybe that's something she wanted for um a while. Or like, she was in discussion with them about that. But yeah. Um it definitely seems like very difficult if Blizzard both has to improve their corporate culture
Mm-hmm.
while also improving how they design games if it's like delay after delay.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we have delays with Diablo 4 and Overwatch 2, and then on WoW, we have the issue of why are we just like, you know, ignoring our content after a year and not being efficient. So I mean, I think it was good how they were trying to have co-leads, and I think they need specialists to sort out different problems at the studio for sure. So in addition to being a beacon of hope, it's also like, I don't know, it definitely feels like uh, you know, people lost diversity advocate with her departure.
Yeah, it definitely feels that way for sure,
Yeah.
which can be quite like worrying for a lot of people. And it's like if you felt any like stability was already lacking, but if you felt any
Uh-huh.
stability, this definitely shattered that further. So it's kind of scary.
Yeah,
It's scary.
especially because people were like, oh, Warcraft 3 was the Blizzard team, Vicarious Visions is led by Jen O'Neill, Resurrect is going to be better, she has a great track record. And it's just disappointing when someone that both really cared about diversity and also had this great games track record is like yeah, I'm gonna just take a step back from the company.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, if this wasn't a good fit for her, it's probably better to do it sooner than later.
Oh, absolutely.
So
Yeah.
it doesn't like fester, or she's phoning things in, or it's not a good fit. So, but yeah, it's not great news.
Yeah.
um, and yeah, I definitely think that there needs to be someone in her position. Blizzard needs to do more with people, diversity consultants, people focused on workplace improvements. It's sort of ironic how, Townsend recently was like, "Oh yeah, here are changes we're making. We're firing
Yeah.
employees," and it's like I'd rather have like
Why couldn't
Jen
she leave?
O'Neill
You know?
than you know,
Because
uh,
Townsend is still in
yeah,
Blizzard, right?
yeah.
Or, well,
She's not part of the
Activision.
Women's Network.
Yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
I am just typing some things, making sure people are on all these breakout articles.
Yeah.
But yeah, everyone in work chat is just like, "Whoa, what is going
What
on?"
is going on? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, with
Um,
Overwatch 2 and Diablo 4, didn't both of them lose the game directors?
um, so Diablo 4, the game director left, likely assumed to be part of the lawsuit behavior, like
Yeah.
a manager that maybe knew about things but didn't do enough.
Mm-hmm.
He had some references removed.
Oh,
Um,
he had
what
references removed
happened?
too, so definitely did something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then in WoW, sorry, with Overwatch, Kaplan left voluntarily. Maybe he knew stuff was brewing, and then someone else very high up
When did he
left.
leave?
Let me pull
Kaplan.
that up. Let's see.
Because I don't remember. Trying to get
It
like the
was
time.
Yeah. One sec. Sorry,
Mm-hmm.
people hear me typing. Kaplan.
No, you're good. But
He
it was before
left.
everything, right?
Yeah, he left April 20th.
Okay.
After 19 years.
Yeah.
Um, and then let's see. And then on September 21st, Overwatch executive producer Chaco Sonny left Blizzard, and yeah, so that
Yeah.
people speculated there was delays if the executive producer left.
Yeah. No. Yeah, it makes sense. Considering all that, of course. I don't think that's surprising for anyone.
Yeah. But yeah, it's definitely that puts a lot of pressure on WoW because WoW has its own set of problems, but it's churning out something new, even if it's not as fast as we want, and there's issues with it. I mean, that's not a
Mm-hmm.
defense of it, but it's from a purely numbers perspective. Um, it's like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
WoW is the one doing regular patches while the other
The other ones
games
are
are.
standing still, yeah.
Yeah, the WoW expansion cycle, for all its flaws, is still a little more reliable than what is happening with the other franchises.
Mm-hmm.
And this is at a time where, StarCraft is sort of just in like maintenance mode, and, that's another one of Blizzard's core franchises that is sort of, on the back burner.
Mm-hmm.
And Overwatch is their new one that they're not doing anything with, and then Diablo is having a lot of issues between, Immortal pushed back, that we learned a few months ago. Now Diablo 4 pushed back. Diablo 2 had the launch issues, and then we don't know when Ladder is coming because of the stability issues. So yeah, there's a lot of delays going on, and it's sort of funny how with all of WoW's issues, it's like the stable thing in here.
It's actually true.
Yeah.
It's the only one that out of all the games that is actually creating something that is to be seen by the public eye, in the near future. So that must be extra pressure, actually.
Yeah, and definitely a lot of pressure considering that it seems the bulk of um issues with the company culture came from the WoW team.
Mm-hmm.
Uh there's the Diablo 4 game director, but he came from WoW, and it seems
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
Afraz Diaby, a lot of the issues stem from WoW, and it's like a really complicated legacy when WoW is both the source of a lot of like revenue stability, but
Mm-hmm.
also the source of a lot of like rock star or
Mm-hmm.
toxic culture.
Yep.
Um, so,
Indeed.
but yeah, definitely. Wow, that definitely some news
Um,
there.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it is Wowhead Weekly is live, so that means these kind of bombs can randomly be thrown at us. um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because with the
Yeah.
earnings report, they didn't exactly uh highlight things like Jen O'Neill leaving or delays. I'm looking at this investor form, and it's like the first thing you see is, I'm pleased to report strong third quarter results ahead of our prior outlook, said Bobby Kotick. We are excited about this week's Call of Duty launch. And it's like, oh, that sounds kind of boring. And
Oh.
then, even reading the breakouts in the actual report, it's just like revenue grew year over year. Um, Diablo unprecedented content scale with Resurrected, Immortal is on track for release. And like that's all they say in the Blizzard thing. And
Yeah.
you're not like, oh, Diablo 4 delayed or, you know, Jen O'Neill is leaving. There's nothing highlighting any of that news in in their press release for financial results.
Yeah. But apparently
Um,
people know anyways, right? Because their stocks fell. So.
Well, yeah, I mean, because Blizzard on the community news site wrote the Jen O'Neill letter, but
Mm-hmm.
the generic press release on investoractivision.com that you see all those stock sites like Business Wire repost, um, it's just like 10 pages of like financial graphs and then a 3-page summary, and it's
Mm-hmm.
very yeah, they didn't put any of this spicy news in the on the investor
Yeah.
website.
No spicy news.
No, it's just
No.
yeah, that's why when I saw that I was like, "Oh, this looks pretty, generic cuz the investor thing is pretty generic."
Mm-hmm.
And then I guess they saved all this stuff for the having people react to it, or who knows, maybe they didn't want things like, co-lead resigns to be part of,
Yeah, you'd
like a
probably not want. Yeah.
yeah,
Because that sounds like worrying news. Like, wait,
right.
why?
Yeah, I guess you
Can't give a
maybe
good
would want that
answer.
separate from like, financial charts, but yeah. Uh
Yeah.
yeah, but yeah, I guess yeah, that is definitely big news.
Yeah, suddenly all the
um
other news don't feel as big anymore.
no. Now it's like
Like, we
it
have the.
definitely puts Ian's interview in a different context.
It really
Um
does. Because
yeah.
obviously they must have internally known this. Um,
Oh yeah. So
and, well, the interview was last week, so it's been a while. Well, like,
the
it was
interview was
published
yesterday.
yesterday, but
Yeah.
in the way it's introduced, I said,
Mhm.
they worded it like we had the interview last week. Um,
Okay. Yeah.
So I think it's like the interview, the speech or the talk happened a week before that,
Yeah.
which is probably still in time of knowing that this was gonna happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we can still maybe go through some of the big points in the interview that were interesting.
Yeah.
I think the most exciting part is the cross faction.
Yeah.
You can see that they're definitely positive on the outlook of Horde working with the Alliance, with Ian himself even giving the example of, Jaina and Thrall are working together. So surely we should be able to as well. And it sounds like it might be some technical limitations currently.
It's funny because a lot of people at the end of BFA were like, "Oh yeah, so Jaina and Thrall are working together. Look at this Crossroads cinematic, like hint hint." And it's like, no, like we got to keep them separate because that's the way it's always been. So
That they
it's
said that,
good
right?
that
Because I'm
yeah, like
pretty sure they did
yeah,
say no in the past. Yeah.
right, because it was such a good setup. Like that cinematic where like Jaina and Thrall like reunite and like
Yeah.
talking about not like repeating the mistakes of the past, like that was all really good.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, I definitely maybe the lawsuit kind of like finally dipped them below like the margin of what's acceptable. Like, oh, it's imbalanced, but it's fine. They were casuals. Like maybe people leaving with the lawsuit made them realize that, oh, like no, now this is no longer fine. We went below what is acceptable. And
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
we also have to keep in mind that they announced, not with the date, but they did announce a few weeks ago that they wanted to do um like discounted bulk transfers that people were very excited about.
That's true
So
too. Mm-hmm.
they could maybe announce these both at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And I'm kind of
Man.
expecting it to become a 10.0 thing. Are you expecting it to become a patch thing?
Um, well, with Jen O'Neill leaving, yeah, I think maybe it will be a patch thing
Oh,
now, or they'll try to announce this sooner than later.
yeah.
Especially with like
You have a point.
Final Fantasy expansion coming out as well. Like I think, 9.2 being a little like slow development with COVID, I definitely think they want to you know, break with tradition when they announce things and definitely get some stuff out earlier than later to restore player goodwill and stability.
Yeah.
Um,
It's a good point. Oh
so
god. I think
yeah.
everything will be in desperation now.
Yeah. So this next part in the interview, which we talked a little bit about earlier, does hit a little differently with the investor news, but earlier in the show, we were talking about how while there are covenant improvements in 915, Ian's answer in this interview still kind of was defending the decision at launch. Um, I do think that like Ian uses a lot of like lawyer speak, and I did notice like some wording that was different than past things, even if it was polite. Like what stood out to me in the quote was um you know, the reality is the way people play the game has evolved. What was the right answer for the WoW player base and for the game 15 years ago may not be today. Um, Clinging to those old lessons, some things are hard to let go of when your training and your education as a designer and a developer on the team led to having these things instilled in you. So,
Yeah.
while I think that some of Ian's reply was like trying to defend the Shadowland systems, I do think the part I just quoted uh was notable for him. Like
Sure.
I think
Yeah.
acknowledging that people play the game differently and also like this I think this is going to be the
And acknowledging
closest.
stubbornness, I think, is
Yeah,
big.
like acknowledging that like some things are hard to let go of, like acknowledging that the team's mindset was could be better. Like I think that's the closest they'll get to acknowledging a mistake, or it's like maybe they thought it was right because that's what was always done with their training and education as a designer and a developer. Maybe it seems that they're realizing that you can't just like follow like a textbook, or what worked in the past will always work now.
Mm-hmm.
um so I think that part is promising, especially if you apply that to other um parts of WoW. Like, I know Alex Afrasiabi a few years ago, there was a quote going around where like one philosophy was, no negativity in the dojo. Like you're not meant to like, have like direct feedback, critique things about WoW.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe people that were disagreeing, like content creators, feedback, maybe things would just be dismissed as, oh, like they're strongly disagreeing, like we just have to discount it in a sense. So maybe maybe this is a good opportunity to, if like Rockstar developers like really pushed a certain mindset or rules, maybe this is a good opportunity to question like why you follow certain things, and maybe some of those choices were not ideal, if especially if a questionable person really pushed for a certain like office culture or development process.
Mm-hmm.
Because he was also talking about how the morale on the WoW team wasn't great. um but even when you dig beyond, like, the really shocking things, there were so many, like, microaggressions that they're trying to sort out, like, people taking credit for each other's, work, um, a lot of issues that could affect morale and how effectively, a game is, being developed.
Mm-hmm.
He's saying stuff like, um, like, certain types of people tend to, interrupt other people. Certain people always get talked over. Um, hiring issues, with the team. Um, People taking credit for others' ideas or dismissing accomplishments. It seems like, there was sort of a reckoning that needed to happen with how the WoW team operated, because
Yeah.
it doesn't sound like a very fun place if you have all these issues going on.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, imagine also working for
Yeah.
WoW at the moment. You go home and
Yeah.
you want to um, relax on social
Mm.
media, and then the entire world hates you.
Yeah,
It's
like
pretty rough, and many, like people are getting, attacked. It's probably calmed down now compared to before, but a lot of people would get attacked for general Blizzard things because they would work at Blizzard, and Blizzard would be a big source of negativity for the people, even outside of their work time.
yeah, I mean, they actually asked directly about the morale, and he was like, there's ups and downs. I think that it's been clearly a tough stretch, a lot of
Yep.
self-reflection, a lot of earnest conversations, disappointment, anger, all that.
Yep.
He did say that the stuff that went into 915, like, made people on the team feel very hype and
Feel better.
positive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think that, that definitely is important moving forward if it
Yeah.
made people feel creative and, like, it helped, stave off burnout, and
Mm-hmm.
you definitely don't want people being like, I'm paid decently, but, like, this job is depressing. I could, like, go work
Mm-hmm.
for a studio that has less baggage or people yelling at me on Twitter. So, um
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's interesting with that context with 915.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, imagine you're working for Blizzard, and then let's say you're, I don't know, in charge of like art or something,
Mm,
and then you want to do this thing to do with customization because you know the community wants it, but then your boss has higher priorities for other things that needs to
mhm,
be done, and with the whole scandal and everything that happened, I think a lot of devs were in this position where they were finally allowed to do that thing that they know the community would appreciate. They were able to, go open that little box of all the community wishes and finally be able to pick those things like one by one. And
mm,
of course, it's a great feeling. I mean, as humans, we feel good when we can do something which is fun for people, especially as a developer. But it's the higher positions that have more things to think about in terms of profits and everything, right? But the developer who has a 9 to 5, they don't have to really think about profit numbers,
mm.
right? They think
Right.
about the actual work they do, and they think about the community responses to the things that they do. So yeah, it must have been a really, you know, um, it must have been a big relief for a lot of these people to be
Mm,
able to work on those things that they know that the community have been wanting for a long time, but they just weren't allowed to spend their time and resources on it yet, because right
mm.
now there's more important things. And yeah, it must have been a nice feeling in that sense. I can imagine that being a little bit of the up part of the ups and downs.
Yeah. He also talked in the interview about how, the Mage Tower is like sort of an early foray into, manually retouching up and releasing old content again. So I think that's really exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like, it's good that this is not just a one-off thing. Um, so another thing that I thought was interesting, obviously the lawsuit was a lot of the news, but was the future of WoW. Because, it's great we're getting 915, but it's not like obviously the cycle is slower than in the past, and people are like, what about story? Why do I have to read, Sylvanas in a book? What new system is coming in 10.0? I miss this part of the game. Classic is more fun. So there was a question about you talked about 9.2 a bit. Should we expect a 2.5 or a point 0.3 for this expansion cycle, or is it 9.2 and done? Um, and Ian said you'll be hearing more about 9.2 soon. It's more planned after that, but it's hard to say too much more without almost spoiling the story that will come. And details on that soon, but we want to explain it in the full context of what 9.2 is going to be. Which is interesting because I think maybe this means they're not doing a 9.3, but 9.2 is not the end, and maybe they're realizing that like do nothing for 6 months and then drop everything at once is a bad it's not good for like the current meta of games. So maybe we'll have a 9.2 and then there'll be like smaller like
Like a
targeted releases
decently
of
big,
content.
like a
Yeah.
925, which still might have some fresh content as
Yeah.
well.
Or like I don't know, maybe Azeroth is shattered and like I don't know, every month we like it's like, oh, you can see Ice Crown now. If, suppose a jailer wins, like maybe it will be like a cataclysm, but we'll like the zones will be staggered out,
Mm-hmm.
something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Because there has been speculation that since things started in Ice Crown, um, and the pre-patch took place there, like maybe we'll come full circle. Um, maybe the jailer will invade Azeroth because it would be kind of a boring story if this guy we never knew is suddenly the big bad villain and then like we defeat him and then like the stakes feel really low.
Yeah.
So, I assume that there will be something more elaborate following 9.2, maybe to balance out all the cosmic stuff. Root it more in Azeroth, and then maybe there'll be some sort of interesting epilogue patch involving Anduin and his character development if he's ever freed from his current situation.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it definitely seems that also with no BlizzCon line, that Blizzard has the flexibility to announce stuff earlier than February, and they may be taking advantage of that if they're saying like you'll hear more about 9.2 soon. Like
Yeah,
I don't
true.
think they would be naive enough to be like, oh, it's soon, and then be like, oh,
And then it's
JK,
like
the news is
February.
in February. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a good point as well. If he does say soon, it does sound a little bit like potentially before the new year, right? So maybe in
Mm-hmm.
a month or so, we might get some information on it.
Yeah. So I can definitely see like 9.2 being this sort of cosmic-y, like going to the, weird place beyond the sci-fi portal, and then like
Mm-hmm.
9.25 or whatever is next is like, you know, Aftermath and Azeroth or something like that, keeping it more, back to its roots.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they also talked about the story, how like the story's getting real cosmic, and some people are just like, can we just go back to the basic elements of WoW? And Ian basically said, like we are telling a cosmic scale story, but we sort of have always done that, like going to Outland, Draenei had their spaceship, but uh, they are trying to alternate between telling the cosmic stories and then the traditional stories, which
Mm-hmm.
hopefully is promising. Because he's like, Azeroth is the heart of the WoW franchise. It started with orcs and humans. We want to get back to that too. Because I feel like
Yeah.
Shadowlands was like the opposite of that. Like we're not on
Mm-hmm.
Azeroth. We're not. We're trying to like do shock and awe with all the core races. Like Tyrande, Elune, Sylvanas. So I feel like that could be a hint that 10.0 will be more like down to
Back to
earth, like
Azeroth. Yeah.
fantasy elements that we're used to with WoW, which I
Mm-hmm.
think is also good.
Yeah.
To keep the franchise recognizable.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, so I do think that overall the timing of the interview was good, and I think what stood out to me the most was I think Ian being like, yeah, like sometimes we're too stubborn to change, and we follow these outdated um ideas instead of adapting. So I think that was the most important thing, because it wasn't just like Ian explaining the vision. It was like, yeah, like maybe our vision was like well thought out, but it just was like not good for this particular moment in time, and we should be
Yeah.
better about that.
Mm-hmm.
I think you might be muted.
Oh, am I? Wait. Can you
Test.
hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay. Yeah, my cat
Sorry.
managed to mute me.
Aw. Yeah, we haven't had Brightpaw. He's like, too much commotion. I'm taking a nap.
Apparently, it was only muted for you, not for stream,
Aw.
because I do
Oh
have
no.
two different buttons for that.
Oh well.
But yeah, I did notice that she pressed it. Apparently, she
Aw.
doesn't want me to speak anymore.
Oh no. Well, you can
Okay, now
repeat
she's
it for
laying down.
me. Aw. You should give
So
her a pet.
yeah, maybe now it's okay. So that's good. All right, so where
Oh,
were
she
we?
typed a ton in the notes as
Yeah,
well.
did you see?
Yeah, eight eight
She
eight
was
eight
trying
eight.
to
Hi,
talk
Luna.
to. Yeah.
CVVJHN.
Yep, it's the cat
Yeah.
talk.
Yeah. Well,
Can't expose
Luna
her
definitely had
secrets.
some feelings on the interview. So, yeah.
Yep, very strong feelings about the interview.
Yeah.
I think that's
But
a good
yeah.
summary of it. I'm not sure if there's anything else that's worth mentioning.
Yeah, I mean, they covered they try to reiterate how like with 915 that the naming changes were not a huge part of the patch, but just whenever people get word of it, they're gonna, they're gonna fixate on it. And yeah, they did acknowledge that the reactions were a bit all over the place. I still feel that they could have gotten ahead of some of the PR by maybe doing an interview about that as the name changes were being announced, or like preemptively, like, hey, you may see this next week. Like, I do think that could have been handled better, but at least they're trying to have interviews about that now, and it seems that maybe they'll learn from the future about how to you know manage community reactions. It seems that not every patch will have the same level of changes, though, and it's always good to hear that. Like this was something people at Blizzard felt strongly about. It didn't
Mm-hmm.
come from Bobby Kotick as some draconian thing, but also that it wasn't like everyone stopped design work to do this. Like, I think it
Yeah.
was good to get more context for it, and it's nice coming from the game director as opposed to like a blue post or an earnings call. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Definitely.
But yeah, so now we can talk about Bobby Kotick taking a pay cut and waiving arbitration, which
Which now feels like ancient news.
I know. So yeah, so 5 days ago, CEO Bobby Kotick published a message, and he announced 5 commitments to improving diversity and inclusion at Blizzard. And also kind of the shocking news that he, as part of this pledge, he said that while the company is, there's a lot of work to be done still, things aren't great as we are rebuilding. Um, he has pledged to cut his total compensation, including bonuses, to the minimum amount, which is for Santa Monica, which is $62,500, and he will stay at that rate until these changes have been achieved. And if you remember back in the ancient times before the lawsuit, he was coming under fire for being like overly well paid, especially with his bonuses, and even took a cut in April, and people were complaining it still wasn't enough. So clearly, this is pretty drastic measures, and now it's clear why what the drastic measures were.
Yeah.
But it's still, I mean, it's still better than nothing. It still shows that he's being serious about it, and I imagine he'll have to stay here for a while, because if he is like, okay, it's January, I'm back to my millions, I think he's gonna come under fire, and everyone will cover the news that his salary is back to normal a few months later. So I think it's a good way to hold him accountable. Um, Although I have seen people being like, hey, if you're QA or if you're this position at Blizzard, you don't even make 62,000. So wouldn't it have been nice if some of his millions went to fix wages at
Yeah.
Blizzard? Uh,
Yeah. I mean,
but
because the cut is made, but
yeah.
it still stays within the company. But if it then instead was distributed among some of the lower ones who don't even have that
Mhm.
minimum, I think that would have been really nice.
This also seems like, hey, board, Activision Blizzard board, please keep me. I'm don't fire me. All the other underlings that didn't manage things properly can go, but
Yeah.
look at all the stuff I'm trying to do. Please keep me
Mm-hmm.
instated.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, but either way, that it's definitely better than Bobby being like, oh yeah, like there are no issues, or we pledge to
Yeah.
change things. I'm
Yeah.
perfect. Like it's definitely showing that the pressure has gotten to the point where he does have to make a statement, whether it's for pure reasons or for PR reasons. It's still a good step. Um, and digging in a little further to the 5 changes they're implementing, um, one that is that the Activision Blizzard coalition was really pushing for was changing how arbitration worked. Um, basically, um,
Yeah. For people who
they
may
said
not know
based
what
on
that is,
feedback.
what is
Yeah.
arbitration?
So the exact quote was based on feedback from employees, we are waiving required arbitration of sexual harassment and discrimination claims for any Activision Blizzard employee who chooses not to arbitrate an individual claim of sexual harassment, unlawful discrimination, or related retaliation in the future. The company will waive any obligation to do so. So basically, if you think back to like Hollywood Me Too, a lot of stuff had to be kept um, private as a result of laws that basically protect the company. So a lot of people, for like NDAs or other reasons, basically people felt that they could not speak out for whatever reason.
Okay. So
Um,
it's like they
yeah,
were under contract to not speak out because it could
yeah,
hurt the company, and now
yeah.
Blizzard has or
Or they
Activision
would have
has
to like go to Blizzard first, which is
to
like,
ask if it's
okay,
okay.
yeah, and it's like, oh
Like,
yeah, like now,
can I talk
now my
about being
job.
harassed here? You know?
Yeah, so it's not it's something, it's not they didn't end arbitration, which is what would be more ideal, but at least in this specific circumstance that's very important, they are changing the policy, so that's like a pretty good partial win. um Something that was a little more gray area is they said that they want to continue to increase visibility on pay equity, and uh but then they're like, oh, our analysis showed that women at the company on average earned slightly more than men for comparable work in 2020. And they're like, we'll report these results annually. So that's good, but I think they're missing the elephant in the room, which is okay, but compared to other companies, you're both making less. So yeah, I don't know why they just won't admit that their compensation is not great compared to like, Riot or other game studios.
Wait. So
Uh,
according to their stats,
They're saying
women earn
according to their
more.
stats, yeah. But it's like, well, if you compare it to Riot, both women and men earn way
Earn less.
less. So, but
Mm.
I mean, I guess if they're reporting these salaries annually now, then maybe that will force more conversations. Because last year it was all people making that spreadsheet and linking it around anonymously. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe if they formalize these results and they're like, "Oh yeah, look at us, we're so good," and then everyone's like, "Oh, but I make more here," then maybe that will lead to more needed uncomfortable conversations.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, at least that's a step. Like there's also like the US has this taboo where you're not really meant to discuss salaries. Like you can, but it's always like, oh, it's not
Oh
polite.
yeah.
Like it's
Same
just
in
sort of,
Sweden.
it's like this weird culture. So I
Mm-hmm.
think that publishing these numbers is a good, it's a healthy step in general.
Mm-hmm.
Um then the other things they announced were that they're launching a zero tolerance harassment policy, being stronger than in the past, which, is definitely a good thing considering that the HR director, resigned at Blizzard, and there were those exposés, highlighting how, reports didn't really go anywhere, or people being like, oh yeah, I saw the HR person at the party where inappropriate things took place. So, um, I think that that's, definitely a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then they also said that they want to increase the percentage of women and non-binary people in the Activision Blizzard workplace by 50%. And they want to invest 250 million to accelerate opportunities for diverse talent. Um, and they say that right now 23% of their employees fit in this category, and they want to increase that by 50% to more than 1/3 across the company within
Mm-hmm.
the next 5 years, and hopefully faster. Um, and there's always the argument of like, oh, so these people are going to be like undeserving, like they're just taking spots, but it's like why are you thinking that like a woman is like like by default is not going to be qualified for a position? Like there's just a lot of times people have like implicit biases when they look at, resumes, or if someone is, a woman or a minority, they may not have the same like traditional experiences as someone with like education. So it's important to be aware of these obstacles that could deter people from having the same experience and try to look at, actual talent. And I think it's good to have a variety of um, experiences and perspectives when it comes to developing a game, because like even there's so many companies even outside of Blizzard, you're like,
Mm-hmm.
who made this change? Like did everyone just like yes men each other? Like this makes no sense. Like it comes up time and time again with corporate things. You're like, this is really cringe. Like why did no one say anything? And I think that this is I think that this is overall something
Mm-hmm.
positive, especially because 23% is not like super great representation. It's like that's it's an outlier. That's like it seems like it's just like too
Yeah.
low considering how many people are interested. It's sort of like with Twitch, how it's like, oh, like why, like not as many women or like, rise to the top or get, visibility. And it's like, it's important to look at, reasons why and seeing if the atmosphere can be changed to be more welcoming or
Mm-hmm.
helping different people, succeed. So,
Mm-hmm. And
um,
I think something, I think Ian touched on that a little bit as well, on
yeah, he did.
spending resources to spend to like improve the recruiting process, because oftentimes if you don't spend too much time, you kind of just randomly pick, and
Yeah.
if there's more people who are likely to apply, then you may just get like the typical person, so to speak. But if they spend more time actually looking through them, and I think he also said like it's not going to be a question of hiring unqualified people. They will still go through like interviews and everything. It's not going to be a charity case of picking up people on the street who have no
Mm.
experience.
Yeah.
So I mean, the loss here, the only loss is time and money, right? Because it's going to
Right.
cost the company more, and when it's like a $multi-million company, then they should spend that money. Instead of giving the
Yeah.
boss a 200 million check,
Yeah.
spend
I
those
mean,
extra millions on improving the recruitment. Look into more
yeah.
people.
Yeah, I mean, you could almost say that the way old Blizzard was, how with the Rockstar devs and like the cliques and people seeming to be friends with each other and HR turning a blind eye, that in like some way they were just there could be a lot of ways to exploit things and help your friends do well, or sort of the irony of like, maybe some of those people were charity cases or got unfair promotions or got a foot in the door, even if they weren't, the
Yeah,
best fit. And now we
it's
have
very
this
true. Yeah.
position
Mm-hmm.
of, all these people protecting themselves and, this issue. So it's like,
Mm-hmm.
by trying to have better hiring
Process. Mm-hmm.
practices,
Mm-hmm.
that benefits everyone, because the process is more thorough and either not just taking like a rushed approach to candidates. And I
Mm-hmm.
think the game will benefit from it in general.
And also like
Yeah.
because there's a lot of natural causes to this too. Like this doesn't
Mhm.
mean that every company who has mostly male
Mhm.
workers are inherently sexist or anything like that. But
Right.
sometimes there's natural causes to this too. If you already have a large male population at your work, then if you just look at the simple thing of random recommendations, right? Like everyone
Right.
tends to recommend friends or maybe relatives to the same
Mhm.
job as themselves. And a lot of times we tend to befriend people who are similar to us in culture or whatever. And so then you start creating a thing where you're hiring copies of yourself. uh,
Right.
and if the company is not spending time and money in improving the recruitment process, then that is what you end up with. You end up getting the 10 people who are happy to be in the Cosby suite,
Yeah.
like that wouldn't happen with a proper like investigation of each and every
Yeah.
person and their
Like Ian,
qualifications. Mm-hmm.
yeah, like in this interview, Ian is like, we are looking at our job descriptions, we're having more people look at them. We've identified some language that may not be inclusive or like subtly deters some, candidates. Um so, you like these are things that even at the process someone might be like, "Oh, like this is giving me like bro vibes," or they're, not talking about, benefits, or, maybe they don't seem welcoming, to disabilities, or like there could be things even just in the job listing that may give people some like, like doesn't seem they've thought about this that much. Do I want to work here?
Yeah.
Like, will this be an uphill battle?
Mm-hmm.
Um
Yeah,
so
definitely. Like the only loss here is time and money from the company. So like
right.
it
But it will
shouldn't
be worth
bother
it in the long
people.
term.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah, because right now there's a lot of societal pressures on companies, so they actually need to do this. But in
Mhm.
general, because a lot of people worry that it means that worse people will be hired, and it doesn't necessarily mean that. I mean, if anything, like you said, sometimes it can stop an unqualified person from getting the job simply for
Yeah, the whole failing
knowing
upwards
somebody
thing.
uh,
Yeah.
and get a foot in. So yeah, no, I think overall, hopefully, it should be a better thing to have a better recruitment system.
Yeah, especially, HR tends to handle recruitment, and we've seen how great HR, was handled at Blizzard. And if we know that they weren't handling complaints correctly, it makes you wonder how, bizarrely they were doing other parts of their job, like helping with recruitment.
Mm-hmm.
Because, what we know of HR is not a shining track record. So um yeah, I can see why Blizzard wants to revamp how they handle hiring if they need to take a look at, like, how they handle feedback, how they handle raises, how
Mm-hmm.
they handle designing the game, leadership, and, hiring is important to make sure you don't
Mm-hmm.
just repeat the cycle in 10 years or so.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, uh, kind of hilariously, at this point in the show notes, I had note, there may be more company news with the earnings call today. We'll update notes.
Yep, I see
And
that.
then it's like, yep. It's like,
Yep,
yeah, they're
we had a few
surprised. They're
news. Mm-hmm.
yeah, just a little bit of news.
Just a little
Um,
bit.
so
I have a cat in
yeah.
front of me, so it's like struggling to see the monitor. But yeah.
Aw. But yeah, just checking in on Wowhead, we've got some 915 news up, and then we've got the Jen O'Neill article up, and then the Overwatch 2 and Diablo 4 delay articles up as well. We
Yeah.
were talking about that earlier, and those articles are up. We're still doing
Yeah.
a full recap of the actual
Mm-hmm.
earnings call. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, the questions weren't as interesting as last time, but I guess we've had enough. We already had our excitement with this earnings call.
Yeah, we'll cover the most important things as well, or the most attention creating things for now.
Yeah, I mean, I
And there
don't
might be
think you
more
can be
later.
co-lead leaves and franchise delayed again. That's
Yeah.
it's pretty shocking. Um, so I think this was one of the more positive, hopeful things we wanted to highlight. Definitely odd to cover with the news we just mentioned, but I think it's still. Um, it seems like this is something the WoW team created, and I think it could be good. Well, it's I have a lot of questions, but it could be positive. Blizzard
Yeah.
has announced the World of Warcraft Community Council to further communication between players and WoW developers. And it seems that there's going to be a special forum where players apply, and if they're chosen, they can make posts for discussion. And Blizzard may reply to these players, and everyone will be able to the back and forth. And there will also be a private forum in case the council members want to discuss with each other. And there may also be live chats between people on this council and the WoW devs. So people are very positive, cautiously optimistic about that because we don't have a ton of communication between players and developers. And I think they had a system like this ages ago that got like put by the wayside, and it seems that this could be a good way to see more active casual communication between players and devs. So what are your initial thoughts on this?
Uh, I actually was talking about this a little bit earlier as well on my own stream as well. I feel like in theory it sounds really good. I think in practice it might turn out to have quite a few difficulties.
Hmm.
Like there's one thing, especially if everything is public, that means
Hmm.
that there could potentially be pressure on people from from other public places to tell
Uh-huh.
them what they should be saying or what they should be prioritizing or complaining about, quote unquote. Um, if it's anonymous, then there is a question of like who even are these people. So if people are not happy with what is being done in those forums, then there might be a lot of backlash on like who even are these people that you picked? Are they even real? Are they your own workers pretending to be users? Um,
Yeah.
so like there is like it's actually a really difficult thing to pull off, I think, because they have to consider that as well as a real problem. But in general, I think it sounds nice as it is presented, at least, because it's not just going to pick a few people, like a handful. It's picking at least 100, and also within that they have specified that they want to include people who are playing the game in different ways, people who are specialized in PvP, people specialized in Mythic Plus, people specialized in raiding, people specialized in achievements,
Yeah.
specialized in role playing. Like they specifically want people from all of the different aspects of the game. And I think that's a good thing because in discussions like that, then maybe the role playing people or the story enthusiasts can be like, you know what, Ian? Actually, no, we don't want the meaningful choice of a covenant. You think we do, but we don't. Uh,
Yeah.
no, but really, I think having more representation of all of those different areas will be better because the dangerous thing also with the loud people on the internet is most of these loud people on the internet are like content creators and similar, and most content creators actually play the game in very similar ways,
Hmm.
and that means that yeah, it sounds like everyone wants the same thing. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. So having people with more different backgrounds, I think, at least on paper, sounds great. You know.
Yeah, I think the background is important because I think that as streaming became more popular, Blizzard shifted their efforts from old school things to streamers. But then it's like streamers are like awesome for getting the game out, and if they're into the game, they'll play nonstop. But that's not a lot of people are getting older in WoW, and they don't have that much time. So it's
That's
important
also a
to,
factor. Yeah, time.
go back and be like, maybe this person likes achievements, but they only play on the weekend, or they used to be a hardcore raider, but now they've got like a 2-year-old that cries a lot. So their focus isn't as good. So they would rather do like solo things like Mage Tower when they, have the time. So I think, while the game has changed over the years, I think that WoW has like some old school charm, and bringing back old programs like this is important. I
Mm-hmm.
do think that like there's sort of a danger if it's not anonymous and someone is like of covenant choice, or they say something that the internet disagrees with, and then it's like,
Yeah.
why did you say this? Why did you get a blue reply? Like,
Yeah.
like, you're a plant. Oh, they have a Twitter. Let's, like, all spam this person, or it's like,
Mm-hmm.
um, but yeah, so I hope people don't feel like they're, being piled on, if they express feedback that is different than the status quo.
Mm-hmm.
I was also curious about the line which said, please note this program is focused on sharing current and past game experiences. It will not provide access to unannounced game information.
Yeah.
Because my worry with that is it could be like, once the patch is live, you get feedback, but if something is on the PTR, like, will the forum not have anything on that? Suppose someone is like,
Mm.
because it's like, if this was Shadowlands beta and if people were discussing covenants, would would that not be appropriate if it's not,
Yeah, that's
like,
interesting,
out
actually.
yet?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like, so I wonder what the scope of this is, if it's more, um,
Well,
casual, or could they
it
say things like, "We
mm-hmm.
agree, we're gonna change it in an upcoming patch." Like,
Mm-hmm.
I just wonder, um, if they'll cover PTR as well.
Maybe what they mean is just they won't discuss future plans, right? So like if the PTR is
Mhm.
out, then they can discuss it, but they won't get answers that would otherwise not be available to the public anyways.
Yeah, I mean, I do see why they don't want this to be seen as, like, an inside scoop forum,
Yeah,
or
exactly. Exactly.
or
I think
like,
that's what it
"Oh, if
is.
I,
Like
sign up, I'm gonna learn what the new raid is, and I'm gonna sign
yeah,
an
yeah.
NDA, like, I need to be part of this to,
Exactly.
have, like,
No
a
NDAs
competitive
needed.
edge."
No
Yeah.
secret info. I think it's just to remove the interest from people who want, like you said, like the inside scoop. Just to remove
Yeah.
those people. I think that's why they put it like that. Because imagine like news stations too who want to report things ASAP.
Right.
They may feel like they need to be a part of this to keep up to
Mhm.
date. But having that said makes it like, oh, then we're fine. Don't worry. We don't have to keep track of it.
Yeah, so, I mean, overall, I think that this is promising. Um, and I definitely think that announcing this seems to be part of a larger social marketing. Well, marketing sounds too cold, but I was going to highlight the Warcraft Twitter that has, like, really shifted its approach to highlight certain individual tweets and do, like, little mini videos and responses.
Oh yeah, those have
Um,
actually been pretty cute.
yeah, and I feel like this emphasis on, you know, if you're like an everyday player, even a casual one, you can, you know, you might get a personalized tweet. You could be part of this, like, forum and give feedback. I think that they're trying to make it seem like the everyday user is, recognized and feels valued and heard. So I think
Mm-hmm.
those two things kind of go together.
Mm-hmm.
Um, But yeah, I mean, I definitely think that it's a positive thing. I just hope it gets the support it deserves. I also, speaking of the players maybe getting piled on if they were unpopular, I hope that if there's more developer activity, I hope that the developers have like social media training, because you don't just want someone like, replying in an unfiltered way, and then, it's plastered on the intranet because it's not a private discussion forum, everyone can see
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Like, I remember back in Warlords, Blizzard tried this experiment where everyone, like, all the devs were tweeting about what they were working on, and it was, like, very down to earth and exciting, but then, like, some people started to reveal like, upcoming information they shouldn't have, or like some stuff got heated or was like a little like too casual, and it eventually Blizzard was like, okay, no more of this. Warcraft devs account consolidating. So I
When was
feel
this?
like, I'm sorry.
When was this?
This was in, like, Warlords of Draenor era.
Okay.
I remember, like, we even, like, at one point, Wowhead had, like, a blue tweet tracker where we tracked, like, accounts of 30 employees because they were all revealing different things across the game. Um,
Mm.
and it was very chaotic. Like, it was fun at first, but then it was like, community didn't know that, like, this developer just, revealed an important item on their Twitter that wasn't on the PTR for 3 weeks, or,
Yeah.
so and so was, like, responding to someone being like, "I think the class changes are dumb," and it got kind of heated. Like, it got kind of messy, so I just hope that, um I can see why, like, an employee might want to, like, reveal something really cool or get into a back and forth, but I just hope that there's, like, just social media communication training as
Yeah.
far as tone.
Yeah.
So it's not like, "Oh god, now this is like a PR nightmare," like,
Yep.
the players selected are making,
I've had enough
weird
of that
off-color
so far.
jokes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just hope it's a smooth, experience. Because also it's like, if you're a developer, you just wanna share stuff, your background is to create the game, not do sound bites for interviews that's gonna be, obsessed over on by all the player base, whether it's on a third-party website or this public forum. So,
Mm-hmm.
you don't want this to be overwhelming or scare developers off from participating.
Mm-hmm.
Because not everyone has the experience and training of someone like Ian that is like the go-to for interviews.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, he definitely
and
knows how
like,
to speak.
yeah, like I remember, like,
Definitely.
even when there's more minor interviews, like the person who's like, "Oh yeah, no more customization," or I remember with like, there's always the interview where someone misspeaks. Like I remember in BFA, someone was like, "Oh yeah, Turon's story is done for now," and people were like, "What do you mean?"
What?
Like,
Yeah.
so I just don't want someone to just like casually say something, but the exact wording is off, and then it's like, Blizzard has officially announced that, and
Yep.
it's like, no, they misspoke. It was like more of a maybe, or a like not to be
Mm-hmm.
taken literally.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I do think it's a good thing. It's just, you know, I just hope they can devote the proper resources to it, and if something isn't working, that they try to improve on it instead of like having it dissolve into chaos and changing it too late.
Yeah. No, I'm really curious about it, and I hope that it's gonna work. In theory, it's good. So
Yeah,
time will tell. Hopefully, it works out.
yeah. Um, so more kind of lawsuity type, well, not lawsuit, but earnings call likely related stuff, was this cat mount just appeared on the store. Not part of a 6-month subscription. Um, the timing of it made it seem, like it was maybe like a shore up things for the end of the quarter, end of the month.
Mm-hmm.
It's very cute. Um, it's a big cat. You can't go
Yep.
wrong with cats. We
Big
love
fluffy
cats here.
cat.
Yeah.
I do have to say that I'm not a big fan of the color.
Yeah, it's a little like, I don't know. I mean, like, it's a realistic cat, but then like the colors feel a little jarring, like the light element. Like it's
Yeah.
both realistic and not. Um,
It also
like
feels a little washed in a way. I don't know. It's like washed but bright at the same time. It's a really weird combo. I would have loved
I
to
see
see
what
a
you mean.
different color. Um, but the model itself is very cute, very beautiful, and it's also got these detailed jewelry on the head.
Yeah. So that's interesting because we've seen with some mounts in the past that if they don't totally fit the vibe of an expansion, they could be something in the next expansion. I think the best example is the Mystic Rune Saber, which was, glowy and purple with the scrolls on the side, and then that was really similar to what we saw for the Nightborn,
Mm-hmm.
the expansion after in Legion. So people are like, oh, the cat doesn't really fit Shadowlands. The light is a very distinctive, polarizing choice. Could this be, a light themed expansion? And then, the jewelry is also very distinctive, kind of like Blood Elf, with the green and the silver. So people are
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, is this, like something with the Sunwell, Blood Elves, High Elves, all sorts of things. It's always, I mean, it's not just a one off. There have been like numerous mounts besides the Mystic Rune Saber where this happened.
Oh
So,
yeah, for sure. I
I
mean,
think
like the
like,
serpent too, right? Came out
yeah, there
in
was this, yeah,
Cataclysm, And then it was the first serpent that we had ever seen, and then Pandera came out, and then suddenly there were a lot of different serpents.
Yeah, I'm just pulling up the shop just to quickly refresh myself on this. Come on, mounts, load. Um, yeah, so I think like the Silverian Dreamer was, definitely kind of Shadowlands themed. Um, Iron Sky Reaver, that was like the Warlord's hint. Um, the Steam Scale Incinerator was like definitely 8.2 themed. The
Mm-hmm.
Vulpine familiar definitely looked like the stuff, from Ardenweald.
The Vulpine was
Um,
so beautiful.
yeah. So yeah, that it definitely seems like this could be maybe a hint for something coming in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with all the hints of that, like, oh, if we're looking at different cosmic forces, we haven't really looked at light yet.
Mm-hmm.
Anduin could be coming back. He seems to have light and dark, background now. And yeah, the jewelry is definitely interesting with how, especially with the Void Elf customization, how jewelry is on a lot of people's minds. And it has so much jewelry. Like even looking at this mount, its little cute back legs have little bracelets with
Oh
like
yeah, that's true. Yeah, I
beads
see it
on it.
now. Mm-hmm.
So it has a lot of cool
Extra
details,
jewelry.
and
Mm-hmm.
even the saddle kind of looks like one of the Nightborn little boats. It's very elaborate.
I've been so blinded by the colors that I'm not a big fan
Yeah.
of that I didn't notice all the other details. Like it's actually a very nice mount. My first
Yeah.
thoughts when I saw this was this is probably the worst store mount I've ever seen.
Aw.
And it's
Poor
really
cat.
sad to say that because I love cats, but I just really don't
Yeah.
like the colors. It's a very weird mixture of too bright with washed out colors. But the details are actually beautiful. Like the face with
Yeah.
the jewelry and the seat on it as well. Like it's actually so pretty.
I think
Oh,
the issue is that like it's so detailed and most of the colors are kind of like dark and vivid, and then the light stuff is so bright it makes that part almost look cartoonish, like it's just bright white. It doesn't have that same layer of detail, and like the brightness is very out of sync with the dark fur and then like this blindingly white thing
and it's
that
also
maybe
like
it
this
needed to be
weird.
toned down.
It's also this like weird orange, like
Yeah.
fade in between the darker spots. Like
Yeah.
I don't know. Like why couldn't we go for like classic sort of blue Elune themes? I think that would have looked so cool. But yeah,
I also think
maybe it's just a subjective thing. Maybe I was just unlucky. I happen to be on the side that doesn't like these colors, but maybe a lot of people do.
Yeah. I did think it's a little hard to match with transmog as well. Like it's a very
Yeah.
distinctive glow, and like there aren't a ton of sets that exactly match that, especially both colors. Like it's hard to find something
Because
that
it's like
matches less
multiple
sort of like
colors. Yeah.
dark orange, silver, and green, and also blindingly yellow gold. I think that's
Mm-hmm.
a difficult color palette to pull off with transmog.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Because I feel like before
but
the only time
yeah.
we would see like very bright colors is if it's like fiery or if it's
Hmm.
like fell. And
Yeah.
sometimes in certain store mounts, we have seen it in wings. Um,
Yeah.
but we haven't really seen it as part of like the mount itself. So
Hmm.
it's a bit of a weird combo.
Yeah. So,
I hope to see
you
a
know,
different color of this in the game, so I can
yeah.
get that at least because it's so cute. Yeah,
Yeah, no, I think it's adorable. The art team, definitely did a great job. Like maybe they were trying out a new tech, and like the glow effect is sort of the like a precursor for more sophisticated effects in the future. But it definitely is very cute. The timing, I feel like the timing maybe would have been better if this came after announcements on other things like the community thing, because it definitely came across as like a cynical, oh, we need something cute, we need to, right before earnings
yeah.
call, quick throw everything at the wall type thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I want to quickly show remind people of the
mhm,
Vulpine familiar,
yeah.
how like the colors, how they just go so well together. Even though the wings are quite shiny, so to speak,
Yeah.
it's shiny in a way that feels good on the eyes.
Yeah. Um,
It's
but
actually so
yeah,
pretty.
so yeah.
But yeah.
Um, I think for a final major topic, again, this sort of came out of the flurry of news before the investor call.
Mm-hmm.
Seems like they were throwing everything at it. Is that they announced that Classic Season of Mastery is coming on November 16th, and then they also unveiled a bunch of the new, more difficult Molten Core encounters, which
Yeah.
so far the reaction I've seen is that um people are really hype about the raid changes. Like these changes got a lot of our writers from being like very lukewarm about updating the guides to like, yes, super hype, like count me in. But the launch definitely feels a little early, especially how people are thinking that, there could be more time to polish certain parts of the game. But now with everything we've heard with Blizzard, it does sort of make sense why they were trying to, I guess, rush out what they can if there
Yep.
are delays with other things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it definitely makes sense in hindsight now because WoW is being pressured in a lot of ways, and I mean maybe it's not too bad if Classic is rushed because technically it's probably going to be a multiple different season thing. So if it
Mhm.
goes bad, they can always redo it better for next time. It can like restart, right?
Mhm.
Retail, however, is a lot more sensitive, so it's probably a good thing that
Yeah.
retail is taking its time.
I also feel that with Classic, they've maybe gotten more comfortable with tweaking parts of the game to address problems faster. Like there was
Mm-hmm.
a period where it wasn't good and TBC was disappointing, but we're seeing things now like, oh, we want to prevent like marathon farming. We're going to introduce some debuff. We want to curb rogue bots with pickpocketing. We're going to introduce this debuff called thief. So it seems that maybe they're gaining confidence to just change parts of the game to make it more enjoyable now, as opposed to being like, well, this is annoying, but it was fine 15 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
um so I think that those are steps in the right direction, and maybe if hopefully if like Season of Mastery launches and there's some like massive oversight, like warping how they expected people to enjoy playing the game, hopefully they
Mm-hmm.
can address this faster than,
Mm-hmm.
what we saw with Classic, where it's like world buffs or distorting things, let's not introduce anything until, phase 6 with the Chrono Boon item. Like it definitely seems that they were very slow to change things and they took a very purist approach, and now they're realizing that they'd rather make the game more exciting and tweak things to keep the general like vibe of it, even if it's
Mm-hmm.
not like a museum replica. So
Mm-hmm.
um but yeah, people were very excited about the updates to Molten Core, how they were more difficult. So hopefully, when we watch that world first, race, it won't be like, oh, everything just like fell over with, not max level characters.
Yeah, I
But
remember.
yeah.
It was like
If it
people are
turns
green geared and
into
people aren't even level 60, and yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if it turns into a thing though where it's like, oh, um like casters can't keep up with these fights cuz they go on longer, hopefully Blizzard will change some things so it's not like a, 40 warrior raid
Yeah, that's
in
a good
Molten
point
Core.
too. I don't think they've talked about tuning at all, but they may need to tune a few things to make it possible for casters to have a chance. Otherwise, yeah, like you said, it's just going to be a full raid of warriors and rogues.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, hopefully they've been like empowered by, the recent responses to, oh yeah, you change things like please, change more,
Mm-hmm.
thanks for the hardcore support. Thanks for making
Mm-hmm.
this more difficult in unpredicted ways. And maybe they'll do more as opposed to like, oh, well, we said no class tuning, so I guess we'll have all warriors. How exciting.
Yep, indeed.
um but yeah, I think that about wraps it up for
Yeah, I think
our
that
show
did.
notes.
Mm-hmm. That was
We still
indeed
have
covering everything.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely stay tuned to Wowhead throughout the day because we're posting like little interesting 915
Mm-hmm.
things. And we still have a big roundup of the earnings call key points
Mm-hmm.
coming. We got the big talking points out, but we'll do our like deep dive
Mm-hmm.
analysis soon on that.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah,
and yeah,
because
915 is live.
mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
if you
Wowhead
are
always goes
interested,
into details, and we're like keep talking on top of each other because of Discord delay. Uh,
sorry.
but yeah, no, I'm sorry. Wowhead always makes sure to cover pretty much everything, and in many cases, also like Perk mentioned, there's deep dives. So keeping track of all the articles on Wowhead can be a good way to being up to date with everything, and then we try to pick on the most interesting topics for the Wowhead show, for the Wowhead
Yeah.
Weekly, where we try to talk about the things that most people might be interested in.
Yeah, one article that doesn't fit the format of the show that I just wanted to highlight as something really cool is that we always do like, the tier list rankings for every patch with explanations, and we tried to make them better this patch. So we made this really cool like little graphic at the top where we rank them by all the tiers. And it looks very user friendly. It looks a lot nicer than our like kind of amateur looking table from before. Like there's cute little icons, and we have filter buttons. So if you just want to like, if you're a pure DPS and you're like, let me see where all the warlock rank, you can be like, you can gray out all the other classes and just see, um, one or two classes how they compare to each
Oh,
other. So we
oh,
just
that's
thought,
cool.
people really like
You're
these
talking about the
articles,
tier
and we
list,
wanted,
right?
yeah, yeah. We just wanted to make them look like nicer and more polished for people that wanted like the TLDR at a glance.
This is really fancy. I'm gonna quickly show it on stream.
Yeah.
So this is being on the website, and
Mhm.
you have the filter buttons here, and you have the explanation of the ranking in case you're not familiar with this type of ranking, and then yeah, you can click specific classes to see where they are, and as wait, there's actually a lot of classes and specs that are in the A range together with us, so it's not so bad.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like the DPS, like, it's 915. There weren't a ton of class changes. Most
Mm-hmm.
classes are at an okay-ish point. But
How's
like the
affliction
purpose of the,
bottom?
yeah, it's
Oh
we haven't
no.
changed a lot showing how stuff has moved, but yeah, it's like a lot of classes are pretty good, so that's why there's the
Mm-hmm.
explanations. But you know, um, we're not going to be like, oh, like this is an F, when it's something has to be at the bottom, but not
Oh, that's
classes
shame,
are an
of
okayish.
course.
Yeah, yeah.
I see. Okay.
So, and yeah, I think the one you're looking at is just DPS, so it's not like tanks and healers mixed up because that would be chaotic. But yeah, it's just, um, it's just a nicer way to look at stuff. And the way it's set up, if like one specs with a covenant ends up really good, like for 9.2, we now
Mm-hmm.
have the flexibility to like upload any icon we want and have like even more variation. If we want it to be like,
Mm.
S tier is like this class with like this build, and then like,
Mm-hmm.
this class can also show up as like D with, a different build. So
I
we
just
think
realized
that
this ranking makes it very generous because
yeah.
you could put it like S A B C, and then
Yeah.
everyone is in the D E F
Yeah.
range. Um.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But yeah, we can also, I mean, like we can modify this. It's not like if it turns out that, you know, nothing is an S or an A plus, we can just axe that from the chart. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, just looking at this one, a lot of the classes were performing well, so we thought it was
Mm-hmm.
better to be like reflecting that like all these
Mm-hmm.
classes are strong instead of being like, oh, instead of A
Yeah.
minus, we're gonna say it's a D to like
Yeah.
get
No.
people
Exactly.
outraged. It's trying to show that they're all
Yeah.
pretty close.
It's good. Yeah. I
Yeah.
think this is good.
Yeah.
It gives like a realistic view on things.
Yeah. So yeah, well, we're going to keep we're trying to do more cool little filter like elements, more designy stuff across the site, and this was one of the
Mm-hmm.
first things we did, but you should be seeing like more nicer modern looking things to stuff like, tables or buttons on the site in the future, cuz we think that just it's the same information as before, but it just looks so much nicer like this.
Just easier to digest, easier to take in
Yeah.
for the eyes. So
Yeah.
that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
So
that's
yeah, so
about it
that's
for
about
today.
it. Yeah, earnings call is over, so no one is leaving. I don't know who else could leave, but no one is leaving. And yeah, so yeah, just enjoy 915 and stay tuned to Wowhead for more
Yeah.
deep dives, or if there's like extended maintenance or like weird buggy stuff, we'll probably be covering those sorts of things, so you know what's going on if you haven't had time to log on yet.
And we'll be back next week with whatever else pops up between now and then. Thank you
Yeah,
guys
I mean,
very
yeah,
much for watching and supporting. And we'll see y'all
yeah.
next time.
Yeah, hopefully we'll have Bright Paw showing up on the show next time. He wanted Luna to have the spotlight this time.
Oh, yeah, while you
Uh,
were talking, Luna was frantically, I'm not even sure what she was doing, but she was like hitting the monitor like this, and her ears were like in the camera view, so
oh
she was like
no.
covering half my camera. Um, I'm not sure what was going on, but I guess there was something on my monitor that she wasn't happy with. I don't
Oh, maybe
know.
she didn't like the cat.
Uh,
She was like, you need to
oh,
get
oh,
the
the
cat
cat mount.
away.
Yeah, I have no idea. Something made her want to scratch the monitor, and yeah, I let her do it, but then in the end I was like, "Are you okay?"
Yeah.
She was going a bit crazy. My entire table was like shaking. So,
Yeah.
but
But
yeah,
yeah, we'll be
thank you
back
guys
next
so
week.
much.
Because of the discrepancy with time zone hours, it will be the same time for US, but if you're EU, it will still be an
The
hour
show is a bit
earlier
earlier.
than what you're used to. Yeah.
Yep,
All right.
indeed. Have a great night, everyone, or evening, afternoon, whatever the time zone you're in, and we'll be back again next week.
Yeah, see ya.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone. Bye.
Bye.